Hi, my name's Eric Peterson. I'm a consultant with Melanie Hood Wilson and Associates. This short video explains the way we use the Intercultural Development Inventory, or IDI, with our clients. The IDI is a valid and reliable instrument that measures the ability of a person or a team to effectively bridge cultural difference. Now, valid and reliable, that's not just marketing language. It means this instrument is tested every year to see if it really does measure what we say it measures. And it does. I am a qualified administrator of the IDI, which means I've been trained by folks at MHWA and Associates to effectively interpret results and coach people who've taken the instrument. Let's get into it. So, first off, what do we mean by culture? Well, the definition I use in my work is that culture is a set of predictable beliefs and behaviors among a defined group of people. Beliefs and behaviors is important because it means that culture exists both internally and externally. For instance, I might have been taught that I am the master of my own fate. Now, if I hold that belief, I'm liable to behave in accordance with that belief and take actions in pursuit of my goals. But let's say I belong to a different kind of culture. I might have been taught that I'm not ultimately in charge of my destiny, or even that certain events are preordained. Now, if that's my belief, my behaviors will certainly be different. And the word predictable is important because cultures are not monoliths. Not everyone who belongs to the same culture believes or behaves in exactly the same way. But if you can accurately predict the beliefs and behaviors of a defined group, you're probably touching on their culture. Now, if you decide to work with us to implement the IDI, it's a pretty simple process. First, we'll send you a link to take the instrument online, and it'll take everyone about 30 minutes. Then you'll be scheduled to speak with a qualified administrator of the IDI who can help you interpret your results. Now, the goal of these coaching sessions is not to suggest ever that anyone scored badly on the instrument or to motivate them to be any different than what they are. It's simply there to ensure that they understand their results. Then, once everyone has seen their results and been coached through them, the group, whether it's a board, a leadership team, or a department, meet together to receive their group score. Now, the group meeting is where we might, at the group's discretion, and I would advise this, begin a conversation about how the group could increase its score by developing norms that support bridging cultural difference. So, when an individual or a team receives their score, they will be plotted against a series of orientations that exist on a continuum. Now, I'm not going to get into each of the 5 orientations and all their defining characteristics here. It takes a lot of time. But also, if you do end up taking the instrument, it's best that you simply answer the questions honestly without being influenced by all of that. What I can tell you here is that what we're really measuring is a mindset. So the further to the left you are on the intercultural development continuum, the more you likely display a monocultural mindset. It means you look at the world basically through the lens of your own culture. Your understanding of other cultures is less rich. It's less complex. Correspondingly, the further you are to the right on the IDC, the more you likely display an intercultural mindset. You might view a conflict between people of 2 different cultures and be able to interpret what just happened through the lens of both cultures simultaneously. Your understanding of culture is much richer, much more complex, and you're just able to bridge cultural difference a little bit more easily. So we are testing for what we call cultural competence, but we're not really testing for specific knowledge, skills, and abilities, but rather how you see the world. So all this talk of mindset sometimes confuses people. Some people believe that if they get a low score on the IDI, it means they are some kind of terrible, awful person. So I want to nip that in the bud right away. It is so important that you know that this instrument does not measure morality, tolerance, generosity, ethics, or knowledge, or anything like that. Look, there are good and bad people in this world. I am not going to deny that. but both kinds of people exist all over the place in this continuum. We're just not measuring that. I have met some lovely people with very low scores and some real jerks with very high scores. It's just not part of what we're doing. What we are measuring here is how you interpret the world around you, your capability to shift perspective and adapt behavior to cultural difference and commonality, a mindset. So a mindset means that when you meet someone and a cultural difference is present, first of all, do you even see it? 97% of us do. If so, what do you see? Is that cultural difference going to make you feel defensive? Are you likely to ignore it? Or are you probably going to lean in? In other words, what are your own beliefs and behaviors when it comes to culture and difference? Finally, it's important to note that people aren't to the right or left because they are any more or less intelligent than anyone else. Almost always, it's because that orientation works for them or they believe it does. It's about whether or not they're being rewarded for their current mindset by their external environment. And that's why it's so important to meet as a collective to interpret your group results. Now, the chart that you see here is just a sample, but it shows a fairly typical team that is clearly dominated by one of the 5 orientations. Now, when a group receives their results, it gives us the opportunity to ask the question, what is it about this external environment that is either validating or incentivizing that particular mindset? Then, what new norms might we consider to help the group adopt a more advanced and inclusive mindset around cultural difference? I hope this video has been helpful and answered some of your questions about the IDI. I really like working with this tool because it's a reliable and objective way to define where a group is in terms of cultural competence, and it offers concrete and actionable ways for a group to both understand where they are and improve. Look, changing a mindset doesn't happen overnight, but if you are up for the journey, we would love to join you there. Let's be in touch.